I should be in bed, but, I wanted to make a video talking about depression and my mindset because, I'm in a depressive spiral right now. And I figure I would just talk about, why I am the way that I am. I'm passively suicidal. So basically, whatever happens, happens. I'm not going to, you know, try and stop it. I've stopped trying to receive mental health care. I don't have health insurance, nor do I really plan to get it. I just view the whole system as, a fucking joke. And, it sucks because I know there are a lot of people who are in a worse condition than I am. And I think that's also what fuels the depressive cycle, is that we as a society are just so fucking bogged down. There are so many resources that we have and so much that we waste, all in the name for consumerism. I can't go to a mall or go shopping as often as I used to, at least, because every time I go out, I just think of who was fucked over making that particular item that I would like or that you like. Which, granted, yeah, I'm wearing jewelry, I'm wearing, things that I wanted, but, I don't really buy as much anymore. I kind of stopped. I just buy food and drink. That's really it. And even still, I plan to at least eventually sell most of my stuff anyway. So it's not like I'm not going to have these things forever. Really, the plan was to just put things into items that would either appreciate in value or stay the same. The jewelry is more of, I like the artwork, because making jewelry is a form of art, so that's why I got it. But, now I just can't really buy as many things because I just question, who was exploited to make that thing? How much am I fucking over someone else for, that thing that I want, or even the meal that I want? I don't go out to sit in restaurants as much. I usually just go get the same thing, usually for dinner. Sometimes I will, though, go to sit in restaurants, and, I've worked tip positions, so I usually try to tip a reasonable amount, because I know that's where their wages come from. But I just find it hard to justify fighting for existence when people are forced to work for jobs that don't pay them enough to live, most jobs at least. And the ones that do pay enough to live are gatekept to hell, that there's really no point in trying. I'd gone to school for a couple degrees that I thought would be valuable, and that was a fucking lie. So now, in order to actually be more employable, I would need to go back for a PhD, which would be another, 5 years of schooling, which I'm just exhausted mentally from schooling altogether. I had worked 7 years to get basically 2 degrees. That should have actually taken 4 years. But I had to work on and off, part-time, full-time. I couldn't take full-time classes. I couldn't take a full-time course load, because also I didn't always have all the classes that I needed available. So, I'm just angry. I feel betrayed by a system that was supposed to support us and foster growth, supposed to allow us to give a better future to our posterity. And honestly, I'm still just even debating what fucking future is there. Everything that's going on right now, I feel, is just intentional by design, because the people at the top want to replace us. That is their goal. They view us as expendable. And I don't see it any other way. Every action that they have taken just makes it seem like we're expendable. And to that I say, those people are going to see the same ending as the people in the movie Don't Look Up. They are going to be up shit's creek without a paddle real quick when they realize that the population has dwindled to such an extent that they don't have the resources. In other words, they don't have enough people to basically solve even the most basic problems, because most of those people who could solve those problems are dead. So I don't see how they want this. I don't understand how they think this is going to play out, because AI is nowhere close to being advanced enough to, supersede human intelligence, even for that matter, match it. And there's a whole slew of issues when it comes to AI, but I'm not going to try and talk about that because I'm also not an expert in that field, but I have my opinions. But we just fight over resources. We fight over things that we have enough of. And I just wonder, if everything goes to shit, what is the point of even trying to fight for any future when there's just so much resistance anyway? So I'm just very passive. I don't actively plan as much for the future anymore. I don't have as much enthusiasm or passion for a lot of things anymore, which is actually why I stopped drawing for quite a while. And it's why I'm still trying to get back into drawing, because there will be multiple days in a row where I just don't feel like drawing, or even a week or two. And sometimes that will actually turn into months and then into years where I don't draw at all. I'm hoping it doesn't happen this time, but I don't know. But I can't go out in public anymore because all I do is I just examine the negatives. I examine how a situation can go wrong, how someone was exploited for this service or this to produce this product. I just wonder, what's the point in fighting for anything? Because either way, we just repeat this cycle over and over again. And we just never seem to get the lesson. So, and granted, there's more that I could say, but I feel like this video is already kind of dragging on. But that's also just why I'm very passive. So, technically speaking, if the right conditions come along and I'm, just meant to expire from that situation, I'm not going to try and fight it. I value human life, yes, because deep down, as much as I hate my own species for what we have done to this planet, what we do to each other, I still recognize that there are pockets of good out there. And I feel like those people are worth keeping around. I feel like those people need help the most. And I do value people. It's just, I don't value myself, because I don't see any inherent value in myself. I mean, so far I have proven it, basically. I'm grateful that I have a job, but ultimately I'm just not happy. And that's another thing why I'm very passive about everything, is because I don't feel like I ever will be. And granted, happiness, I know, is fleeting. It's not permanent. But I just have to keep asking the question, and it's so absurd why we live a life where there are only fleeting moments of happiness and then the rest is just misery, or it's just boring. Where's the fun experience, So I'm sorry, I'm trying to collect my thoughts because I had more that I wanted to say with this video, but I wanted to give an idea as to why I am kind of just mentally given up. Because honestly, I don't even feel like there is a cure for me anyway. There really is no cure for depression. You're just trying to fight it every single day. But for a chunk of people, it does claim them. And I'm really just kind of making this video to, while I still have a clear mind, just to outline what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling. Because, Christ, I'm 32, and I'm not happy with work. I'm not adding to my savings. I'm very lucky right now that I even have savings, like a savings account and actually money in there. But I'm actually pulling from it each month. Mostly to go on outings, to hang out with friends, but also to help people. I've given money to some friends to help them out. And, some of it I expect paid back, mainly because I paid off a debt that actually wasn't my friend's. It was someone that left them with debt that is preventing them from getting an apartment. But I helped them pay that off, which, I'm happy to do so anyway, because I don't want to see one of my friends be homeless. But, if it comes down to it and at some point, I don't have anything left, then I'm just not going to fight anymore. I'm just going to check out. That'll be it. Because everything thus far, so far in my opinion, society is telling me that I am worthless, that I am not worth keeping alive, that I am only worth my job, I'm only worth the money that I bring in. And I want this to sink in. It does not matter what you say. It doesn't matter how valuable you view me. This is the social contract that society has given all of us. We are only worth whatever job that we have, whatever money and income that we can bring to survive. And yet most of us, actually, not most of us, all of us didn't ask to be here. We were brought here by two individuals who thought the world would be better for us. Yet somehow, I fucking doubt that, because our predecessors clearly did not give much of a shit. At least a chunk of them didn't, because they built this world. I didn't fucking build it. Most of the millennials didn't really even build it anyway. It was the baby boomers and the Gen Xers. Granted, we did have a hand in it, but, Christ, by the time we came into the picture, everything was going downhill anyway. So, people say, oh, your job doesn't define you, money doesn't equal happiness. Well, it means survival, though. That is what I want people to understand. And if we had enough to survive and to also thrive, to save, to actually enjoy life or even better our lives by getting an higher education, I think things would be better, but that's not the case. The social contract we were handed has long expired, yet we still accept it anyway. And that's the thing, is that we're all given shitty contracts. At least my generation and our, successors have been given shitty contracts. So it doesn't matter if someone tells me that I'm worth keeping around, because the social contract does not state that. And that is what I want people to understand. I understand you mean well by telling me that, but I know better, because it doesn't change things. So I think that's all I want to state for now. Anyway, I will talk to you guys later. Bye.